G'day guys, it is Monday. You know what that means. It is time for PBHQ Live. I am Dwayne Nichols. You are probably in Australia, New Zealand, maybe throughout Asia this week with the Singapore Paintball Series. And actually, I know for sure that at least one of you is in Singapore. Dom is in from the Singapore Paintball Series webcast. Brad Short is in, Brent Mitchell is in, Michael Wybrew is in, Billy Colias is in, so a bunch of the Wicked Warriors, good supporters of this show and just of paintball in general. So thanks fellas for jumping in for tonight's show. If you can hit the thumbs up button, the subscribe button if you haven't already, the share button's always a good one too. If you share it out on your social media, get the word out about the show, and let's keep the chat rolling tonight. There's plenty to talk about. The Elite One Rush event is coming up this weekend. A beginners 3-man is coming up here in Wagga as well. I have a whole bunch of events scrolling through over here that you'll see that are coming up throughout the remainder of the month. And I'm going to be talking about results from the Singapore Paintball Series, as well as their AGPIC, so their Asia Girls women's event that was at that same event, as well as the New Zealand Race Series that happened over in New Zealand on their long weekend over there. Esteban from Wicked Warriors is in, Luke from Make It Rain, Susan, Kyle, all joining in, Shannon from Crisis in New Zealand. So yeah, as expected, people from all over checking out PBHQ tonight. So thank you for doing just that. Marcus is in as well, who from Outlaws has had a big couple of weeks, much like Ralph Singh, who I was just chatting to literally moments before going live here tonight. If I'm a bit sniffly and nasally, I apologize. Classic kids bringing home stuff from daycare at the end of last week, and I avoided it. I thought I was doing sweet, but then today hit me like a bus. So man flu, I'm on the way down, but it hasn't really smashed me just yet. But I'll be lucky to see the other side of it, as man flu tends to do to us all. I'm sure you can all relate. Let's get into the show. A couple of mentions. Paintballshop.com, major sponsor of the show. They have, or are getting, the new Carbon Fade goggles. So Carbon have been promoting these recently as coming soon on their social media. Love these images as well. The backgrounds, the plain black background really puts the focus on the goggle. I really like those. You can go to the Carbon social media to check out, because there is more than just these couple of styles, or you'll be able to get them at paintballshop.com shortly. So they weren't, as of at least lunchtime, and this may have changed, they were not on the paintballshop.com website at lunch today, but I haven't gone back to check more recently, so they may have yet been uploaded. You'll be able to check them out and buy them soon from paintballshop.com though. I quite rate Carbon products. If you're a long-time viewer of the show, you would know that one of my favorite products, if not my favorite product in paintball, is their protective layer of clothing underneath, particularly the protective bottoms. Big fan of those, and would recommend anyone to pick them up if you are looking for like slide shorts, knee pads, any of that type of stuff. It's sort of all encompassing and a really decent bit of gear. The Carbon Zero mask, in at least my experience, super duper comfy, but not my favorite goggle getting around. On the flip side of that though, a lot of people rant and rave about them. Absolutely love them. And Mike is saying that they've had them for like 3 weeks, just couldn't advertise them until everyone else got them. So they're already there. Paintballshop.com have them. Go and pick them up. Get yourself one if you are so interested. Another mention, and this is sort of ties in with paintballshop.com, Gladiator, major sponsor of the show. You may have noticed during the Super 7s webcast that they had a new little ad running during the downtime between points and between games at the Super 7s. So I'm going to run that for you now. You might see some familiar faces. And then they've got a deal running at the moment at paintballshop.com, as well as a couple of other places that I'll show you. So just check out the new Gladiator ad if you haven't seen it already. Yeah, so some good quality stuff there from Gladiator. I've been speaking with Drew about that for a couple of weeks as he's been putting that together. And it features obviously some of Australia's best paintballers. And it even featured Jamie Angus in addition to those best paintballers around Australia. And Jamie doesn't watch as much on Mondays anymore, so I feel like throwing little barbs out at him doesn't have quite the same satisfaction that it used to when he was in the live chat all the time. But someone can tag him or send him a message and let him know that I'm keeping the streak alive. And Waibu was saying that the masks are online right now, so you can go and get them right now if you want to buy those new masks. And speaking of Gladiator, I'll just bring this back up really quickly. They're doing a 15% off the U98 tank. So the Ultralight 98 tanks, the 88s and 77s are wildly popular on the speedball field. Don't see a lot of the U98s, but you can get big savings on them at the moment. And with something like Total War coming up in a couple of weeks, that's a lot of air to get through. I haven't seen the math on how many shots you're going to get out of a U98, but on most high-end guns, you've got to think you'd be getting close to shooting a case of paint on an Ultralight 98. This is available at participating retailers only, so check for your nearest stockist or retailer at gladiator.com.au if you're looking to buy an Ultralight 98. Apparently, they're quite popular in the, I was about to say airsoft, but the gel blaster scene. They're keen on those Ultralight 98s, which is interesting. I knew that they used compressed air, but I didn't realize they were getting into the bigger tanks. But yeah, Total War coming up, a real good chance to use a big tank for that one. Alex Kith is in from Thailand at the moment, and Russell from Crisis in New Zealand is in as well. And we're going to be talking about the New Zealand event very soon. But first, I want to talk about the Singapore Paintball Series results here. So the Outlaws, fresh off of just a couple of weeks ago, getting a second place in the semi-pro division here at Super Sevens. They have headed home to the Red Dynasty Paintball Park in Singapore to get the win from Red Sevens. Red Sevens is kind of like, well, I would say the home fields team, I guess. Ben and the guys from the Red Sevens have been around for a long time. They got second place, and KU getting third for this event. The images you're going to see from this event are from One Mad. Does unbelievable work, and a big fan, as I've mentioned a lot. But there was also Sharky was there from Winter Fly From Above, who does great work. King Ang was out there. So I imagine you're going to see some unreal photos if you're playing that event, or if you're just a fan of checking out good paintball media. That will all be coming out in the next couple of days and weeks from the Singapore Paintball Series. And some of the One Mad teasers have already been uploaded, including the guys from STK Entourage. Unfortunately for the guys from Entourage, who are, for some of them, on their 5th international trip of the year, which is a massive commitment to be playing. I think they've played Singapore twice, Thailand and Malaysia. Maybe Malaysia twice, or maybe Singapore twice in there as well. So big commitment from those guys. It wasn't their best result. In fact, it was probably one of their worst results from the weekend. Timmy Colgan sent me a couple of quick messages this afternoon saying that they let a couple of their games slide on Saturday. They got things together on Sunday, but unfortunately they were only able to scrape into the finals and then eventually lost to KU, seeing them out of the tournament for the weekend. So they'll continue to grow and get better. Timmy from the main STK squad was there with Chris Nauder, who has been living in Melbourne instead of in Perth with the rest of the guys. And they all linked up with some of the Entourage guys to play that event. So, and I am blown away by the commitment to get overseas 5 times, and where it's like June 5th currently. So already 5 international trips for some of those guys. Big effort. Dom saying, go Outlaws. Alex saying, congrats to the Golden Dragons. And yeah, so the Golden Dragons were the winners in the amateur division at that same event. I don't have any images of them for tonight's show queued up. I was only going to talk about the open division, and you were able to go and watch a webcast over on Facebook if you so wish. I didn't get to watch much of the webcast at the time, but I went back to watch some of the finals games, a little bit of the finals this afternoon when I had some free time. And In particular, I was able to watch the women's first-second match between Kerez and Fempire, and the third-fourth between Sniper and the team, is it Radical Pixies? It's escaping me at the moment who the fourth team was. So Kerez got the win. This photo of Jane from that event. Fempire, who got second, featured Belle from Sydney, as well as Jess Marden. Anel from out in WA was also playing on the team that got fourth, and someone will have to let me know the team name because it's just, yeah, gone. It was in my brain earlier this afternoon. It is no longer there. Sorry, Timmy is saying it's 4 times that they've been overseas. The 5th will be for the MXBL coming up in the not too distant future. And it was Radical Pixies. Okay, I'm glad I got that right. And unfortunately, if you haven't gone, if you weren't watching, poor Belle and Fempire in the final for the event, Belle was alone in the snake corner. All of her teammates had died. And in a piece of what can only be described as COD timing, if you're familiar with that term, she switched off as a player walked right by her. And when she switched back, so to sort of paint this picture, and I probably could have queued it up, she is in the snake corner looking down the tape. The player goes inside and starts walking, is completely unaware that Belle is in the snake corner. And by the time that Belle checks back, this player has just started walking into the buzzer. And because she's walking so casually and nonchalantly, Belle doesn't think to shoot her. And somehow this player walks maybe another 5 or so steps and hits the buzzer whilst Belle is essentially looking right at her. I messaged Belle, who I've known for 5 or 6 years now, and crossed paths with her at events in Sydney and here in Wagga a number of times. And I was just like, oh man, what happened? And she said that there was a few tears, a few laughs, but she did point out, and this is really important, and I've mentioned it here on the show, whilst the winning and competing is awesome, the team that she played on had women from across the world coming together and becoming friends over the course of the weekend. And she said that was more important than winning and losing. It was the best part of the weekend for her, and I totally agree. It doesn't matter if you do a road trip just up the road to play an event, if you play a home event and you've got people coming in from elsewhere, or if you get to travel internationally, the people are the best part of paintball. And Dom saying confusion all around. Yeah, and you just, the commentary was probably the highlight of that. They're like, why isn't she just shooting her? Just shoot her. And it's one of those things, you can't explain it until you're in the situation. And we've all made mistakes out on the field, but we probably haven't had it happen in a final with the webcam focusing right in on her. So poor Belle, I feel for her, but it's one of the funny moments that came out of the weekend. Luke saying that Dubbo is working on putting an AstroTurf field down. I did see someone comment about going over to Wollongong to pick up some AstroTurf, and as Mike Wybrew can tell you, as I can tell you, Matt Kashadi at Sniper's Den, so many other venues in the last 4 or 5 years that have gone down that road. Arena Paintball in New Zealand. Synthetic turf is incredible and it's great for the players. Most players prefer synthetic turf in my experience, but it is a big undertaking, a costly undertaking, but it is worth it in the end. So that was the results from the Singapore Paintball Series. Shout out to everyone who played that event and to the webcast crew. I did notice they had some upgraded cameras at the event, and I think their webcast, it's just steadily grown and grown and grown over the years. And whilst it's not as widely viewed often as like the Super 7s or the NXL events in the US and the Europe, it is top-notch stuff. Absolutely worthwhile checking in if you're interested, particularly in following the Australian teams that go over and play those events. The New Zealand race series was on at Arena Paintball in Fielding, New Zealand. Expendables got the win. So I mentioned Ralph Singh before. Ralph from Tahiti played at the Super 7s Pro Weekend with SWAT last Sunday and got a win. Does not even go home, just travels immediately from Sydney to New Zealand, spends the week in New Zealand, rolls out Saturday and Sunday with the Expendables and gets an event win with those guys. Crisis got their first podium, I believe, Shannon sent me a message earlier. I think he said it was their first podium ever. So they got second at this one with a couple of guests. One of the Christensen boys, one of the Hopkins boys jumped on with them, and Ballistics Unit getting third. Dave Hopkins, who I spoke to very briefly this morning, said in the semi-final, I think Tom Hopkins with Crisis won a 1v3 to get the match to go into, to win that match in the semi-final to make it into the final. So that's incredible. Not many people pull off 1v3, so yeah, really cool effort there. Russell saying it sure was. Michael Wyberry saying the Singapore webcast was great. And Marcus saying shout out to Dom for the awesome work. Yeah, I totally agree. And Shannon also saying that the arena paintball turf was amazing to play on. And yeah, I don't think I've mentioned it on here, and whilst I've not been there, just knowing Dave Hopkins the way I do, and knowing the budget and the time and the effort and the expertise of the people that he had come in to do that job, it would be a top 5 paintball surface in the world at arena paintball at the moment. And hopefully at some point I can get over there and play in that one. I think Dave said already 7 or 8 spots are filled of a possible 12 for their October long weekend event, which will be their final event of the year. So Australian teams, if you're looking to play an event internationally, hop over to New Zealand. Paint ranged from, I think it was like 65 to 85 New Zealand dollars. Most teams were spending $75 a box. The guys from Crisis shot 28 boxes across the event. It is a limited paint format in the sense that you have a hopper plus 4 pods. Heard that it was a unreal weekend over there. Only good things. Only 6 teams out there, which is a bit down on previous events, but Dave did make mention that the standard of play across the board was really high, which he is liking to see, and hopefully that continues the growth over there in New Zealand, and then we'll continue to see New Zealand teams coming out here to Australia, and hopefully we can start returning the favour and sending some teams back to New Zealand, because it's been a long time, and in 2020 it was looking like, I know SWAT were keen to go, Asylum was planning on going, amongst other teams. I think Eastside Raw maybe were going, and then COVID really derailed all those plans. So yeah, hopefully Australian teams heading to New Zealand is something that we will see in the near future. I don't know, and if the guys, Russell and Shannon and whoever else from New Zealand is in at the moment, if they want to add anything to that, by all means, drop it in the comments and I'll read it out. But I heard it was a great weekend. And Ralph actually dragged another Tahitian player out there who jumped on with Ballistics Unit, I think he said, who got 3rd place. And the effort to get from Tahiti, well, to Australia in particular, but even to New Zealand is a big one. I think it's something like 1 flight a day or 1 or 2 flights a day out of Tahiti to go to New Zealand or elsewhere. So it's not, and it's like wildly expensive. So massive effort. The HK level 3 paint, apparently from Shannon, $75 New Zealand a box, and said it shot real good. And yeah, Wyberry saying we had air tickets, accommodation, and car hire. But well, if I remember correctly, I think that they were talking about doing a 14-day quarantine on returning from New Zealand to Australia, and that came into effect on the Wednesday, and we were supposed to fly out to New Zealand on the Thursday night or something to that effect. It was a couple of days. So yeah, we had everything booked too. We were essentially on the plane. Yeah, just crazy. Thankfully, we weren't actually in New Zealand, because I don't know, I never had to do the 14 days quarantine thing, but I wouldn't have liked to. Some events coming up this coming weekend, and man, no one in Australia is doing it better than Elite One at the moment. They've got 15 teams playing across 3 divisions for their Elite One Rush event. They will also have a webcast both days, presumably on their Facebook page. I don't think they're here on YouTube, at least to the best of my knowledge. Over $3,500 in prizes will be up for grabs at that event. Race to 3, uncapped semi. You want like 48 snake beams and 33 Doritos on your field layout with a giant M? Well, go to Coffs Harbour and play on one of Pete Adams or Kyle's head. Oh, I was going to say something I shouldn't have there. Absolute mazes. I don't know how they own so many bunkers. It blows my mind every time I see one of their field layouts on paper. This thing looks wild. If you want to go and check out the other images of the field layout, you can see them on the Elite One Facebook page. Go over and check those out. It's shaping up to be an unreal weekend. Speaking of the discussion between grass and turf, if you had to play on grass anywhere in the country, Elite One Paintball at Coffs Harbour is the place to do that. The surface always looks absolutely immaculate. I'm sure that will be the case this weekend as well. I haven't looked ahead. I quite often look ahead for the weather at the Coffs events because it always just seems to be like in the low 20s, light breeze, sunshine. They just get it right all the time. So hopefully that is the case. Shannon saying best event he'd ever played in. Epic to win second. Hard-earned win by the boys. Yeah, that's cool to hear, mate. And I think with a team like Crisis, getting the experience of some of those guys from the Manawa 2 Titans jumping in and helping them out, it just helps everybody raise the level, the standard of play there in New Zealand. So really glad to hear that. So if you're playing Elite One Rush this weekend, best of luck to you. Hopefully, at this stage at least, I don't have any bookings Saturday morning at the field. So if the webcast is up first thing Saturday morning, I might have some brekkie and check out some of the games Saturday morning before heading to work. Billy Kalai saying the grass is absolutely awesome. Kyle is saying that they haven't done the drone shots yet, been a bit wet, but the field is green as and nice and soft. Wouldn't expect anything less. So yeah, awesome to hear about that. The other event coming up this weekend, and I don't have a graphic or anything queued up, but I do have 10 teams playing in a 3-man novice event here in Wagga this weekend. I always, broken record levels of repeating this. More fields should be running beginner 3-mans. Not only should the fields be doing that, but more teams and experienced players, and I know the Wicked Assassins and Wicked Warriors have done this in the past. If you're an experienced team at your local venue, you need to be working with your field, or you don't need to be, I shouldn't say you need, but you should have the desire to grow your local scene by committing one Sunday a couple of times a year to reffing a beginner's 3-man or helping out with a beginner's 3-man so that your field can introduce new players to the game. It grows all of our events, and you just have to look at Elite One Rush to see that. The teams popping up around there, like Berserkers, Convicts, and some of those other teams that are popping up in that region at the moment, they've all come through playing beginners events, and no one is doing it better than Elite One currently. We've had a good track record in the past in Wagga and have been pretty slack the last probably 12 to 18 months after COVID, but we're back on track now. This one's sold out. I'll be looking to run another one in August sometime. And as always, if any fields want the sort of, it's not like a secret sauce, it's a pretty simple method of how I put these things together, but they nearly always sell out, and the players love it. So reach out and I can help you put one together as well. Alex Kift saying the Wagga 3-mans are the best to get into the sport. Totally. And well, Alex is an example of that, coming out of the Canberra system. Played beginner events here, played open events here, then went on to play NXLs in Canberra, has played internationally in Thailand where he's living now. So that all comes off the back of playing a couple of beginners events here in Wagga going back 2 or 3 years. So yeah, massive. And Billy Kalai saying the Wicked Assassins did one at the beginning of the year and they are looking to do another one at the end of the year. Awesome. I'm sure Mike will help you in any way he can facilitate that at the field. It's just the best way to get new players. Couple of birthdays to shout out, and then we get into the Photoshop challenge that is coming back for a rare appearance. It's been some time. Your boy Mick Jones from the Eskimo Brothers, so Plucker, celebrating his birthday today. I guess he's like 21, 22. He's 15 years in the game at least, after seeing a photo of him and a fresh-faced Johnny Robber pop up on Facebook earlier this week. King Ang, who was out taking some photos in Singapore. Rob Lewis and Michael from WA also celebrating birthdays this week. So happy birthday to everyone, in particular Plucker. Great photo from Kayla Woodham there of Plucker at the Masters last year. And yes, you did hear correctly, the Photoshop challenge, of which used to be a feature of this show and one of the main reasons that people watch, is back tonight. This photo, let's see if I've got it queued up correctly. This photo, I'm not familiar with who the player is from the Golden Dragons. This photo by One Mad was put up as a teaser late yesterday, and I really like the photo. The weather at the Singapore Paintball Series, I'm told, was pretty good for most of the event, but late in the event, deluge, classic Singapore, classic Asia generally, and you can see the puddles on the ground, all the old paint on the ground, the overslide well past the bunker there. Love the photo, really, really like it. And I put it out there to the masses, as I so often do, and this is what we got as a result for the Photoshop challenge. So this was the first entry. I cannot remember. It might have been Amir from Malaysia that sent this one through. I apologize if I'm wrong there. And that was the kind of vibes I got when I first seen it, was snowboarding vibes. And then had this one sent through, again, escapes me. I really need to write a list of who send these through. Extreme sports was the theme on the couple that I got early there. So a nice little 50-50 grind for that one. And then somewhere, Mitch Hackett commented, "Paint me like one of your French girls." So he made the comment on the post, and I did the work and put this together. So I'm sorry for everybody who's familiar with that scene and knows what I'm covering up there. But classic scene in Titanic, and it looks like it fits, so I'm all for that one. Thank you to Mitch for the comment on that. Dom Fu from the Singapore Paintball Series chimed in with this one. So the downhill slalom snowboarding event from the Winter Olympics. And then the last and final one, which was my second thought when I put this all together. And I was pretty happy with how this one turned out. I sent this to a mate of mine who's a big freestyle motocross fan, who rated that pretty highly as well. I don't know, I can't remember. I used to watch the X Games religiously for the freestyle motocross, and I could have told you what that was called in the past. But it definitely looks like something someone would do in the freestyle motocross. So I'm excited to see the Photoshop challenge back. Hopefully we can see some photos in the future. If you see any, whether it's King Ang, whether it's One Mad, Winterfly from above, if you see something from Kayla Woodham, whoever's at Elite 1 this weekend taking photos, I imagine Angus might be out there, whoever it is, send me the funny photos of players making mistakes or just doing cool things, and I don't know if we'll embarrass them is the word, but we'll put it out there. We'll either embarrass them or embellish them and get them out there. Alex saying, I think that's Jay from Golden Dragons. And Billy saying Mike and John were awesome for the first one. They helped. And October 22nd is the date that they're looking for the next Wicked Assassins 3-man for beginners. So if you're in Sydney and you know people who are interested in getting them into the game, well, obviously they can rock up to training any given weekend. But if they're looking for a 3-man beginners to play people at their level, that's the perfect one. Luke Fierce is saying a one-hand seat grab. Yeah, but the legs to the side, I'm thinking can or something else, but it's just got me a little bit confused, but that's fine. I'm confused pretty regularly. And about, I would say, half an hour before the show went live, I realized that it was a new month for all of our patrons on the show. And you'll see down here that I should have been doing a giveaway tonight, but unfortunately I was ill-prepared. So that will not be happening tonight. I may do it at random during the week live on Facebook. If that is not the case, I will do it next Monday on the show. I'll be giving away that action cam. And if I've got it here, next month, I've got some PBHQ hats and barrel socks to give away. And in looking for those over the weekend, I actually found a couple of old PBHQ shirts that I got made up that I didn't realize I had. So I might do a bit of an end of financial year sale to clear out some cupboard space for some of the gear that I've got. PBHQ barrel socks, hats, shirts, all sorts of gear. So if you're looking to pick something up cheap, I might be your man towards the end of this month. Thank you for joining in for PBHQ tonight, guys. If whilst you're on YouTube, you can hit that little thumbs up. Apparently, let me just check if that's refreshing. Only one thumbs up on YouTube. Come on, God, that's not very nice. Hit that thumbs up, share and copy the link, subscribe if you haven't already. Yeah, most importantly, join me again next Monday and we'll do it all again. Thanks, guys. Have a great week. Bye.